Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the North Shore School Board to order, and we will start out with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There we go. All right, so welcome everyone of our viewers. As you know, we're streaming this as we usually do. We're just not at the district office, which has been closed. On behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this evening's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by the board members. I would like to introduce the people participating in this meeting. Recording Secretary Cindy Benson, Superintendent Dr. Michelle Reed, board members Jacqueline McGurty, Amy Cast, David Kogan, and Sandy Hayes. I am Bob Swain, and I currently serve as the president of the board. Agendas for this meeting, as well as minutes from our previous meeting, are available online at boarddocs.com. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Would the board like to make any changes to the agenda as it has been published? No, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, thank you. I'll call for the vote. And now we're still going to be online voting, so you toggle or go over to the board docs on your, as you join the meeting, and we'll be able to vote as we usually do. If you have any difficulties, just shout out and send you. Okay, just there it is.
Yay, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Come through. Oh, yes. Okay, there it is. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
And Alex. All right. The agenda is approved, and we will now move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. It's been a busy couple weeks since last we met, obviously. I do want to say, number one, just a thank you to our staff and our community for their continued support, patience, and staying home safe and healthy. It really matters right now. I want to update the board that we did late Saturday evening receive new guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. And it looks like the new guidance is intended to give us more flexibility. So it'll enable us to move forward with a new iteration of learning model in the very short future here. We received that news Saturday evening. Cabinet reviewed it this morning, and we'll be working tomorrow with staff to put together our new iteration and get that out as soon as possible. But we're excited to have the flexibility from the U.S. Department of Education that we've been waiting for. So that news did come in late Saturday evening. Also want to let the board know that I sent a note out to all students last night, and we're looking at some literary reviews and book reviews from students of all ages. And I also sent an invitation to all of our seniors in high school. Regardless of the high school they're in, I'll be doing a 2 o'clock district-wide high school senior Zoom conference on Wednesday. We'll be sending all seniors an invitation to that, and I'll be answering questions that seniors have been submitting since last night. We have a number of responses on a variety of topics, so I'll be providing as many answers as we have Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I want to confirm that our buildings are closed at this time, other than those essential buildings providing childcare and food prep. We've also closed all playgrounds, although I did get a variety of reports this weekend that the community was still accessing playgrounds. We have locked gates, and we just asked the community, in light particularly of this evening's governor's address, also to not be on the playgrounds and not congregating in large groups. I do want to mention that the state testing has been canceled for this spring, as well as IB testing. AP testing is looking at a remote model, and more details to come on that. So we will be providing, after the board meeting tonight, I'll have an opportunity, staff is crafting most of the talking points for an email out to the community. So I'll be providing a detailed update to families this evening on where we're headed with our next iteration of our technologically supported learning platform. So we're excited to continue to connect with our students and families, and are hopeful that with the federal government relaxing some of their regulations and encouraging flexibility, that we're going to be able to meet the needs of our students.
Excellent. Anyone have any questions? Good. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reed. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is our period of association and public comments, but because the building is closed, obviously, and for the protection of everyone, we aren't going to have any live public comment, but we encourage everyone that is listening or not to send your comments or questions to Dr. Reed and the board. If you'd like, you can do that at schoolboard at nsd.org. If you use that email, it'll go, your email will be forwarded to all board members. So you don't have to put in each individual board member's email, but you can do that also. So please go ahead and do that. That's the way we'll be operating, I think, going forward until things go back to normal and we have access to the building again, et cetera. So now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
So moved.
I need a second officially.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion, changes? Not hearing any, we will, I'll call for the vote.
Zeus.
There's our public comment right there.
President Swain,
Yes.
I would like to make a comment after the vote about the item on the consent agenda that was for the North Creek High School trip out of state to Houston
Yes.
in June. And so I am aware that we're monitoring the situation closely with travel, but that was one thing I just wanted to call out about the yes vote on that, is that we're going to monitor that and make appropriate adjustments if necessary.
That's my understanding from speaking with Dr. Reed, that since it's far enough out, we'd go ahead and approve it now, and we can always, that event can be canceled later, just pending events.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up.
And we have a voice vote from Director McGurty.
Okay.
President Swain, I also have a question. I understand the Bothell field trip cancellation was on our consent agenda so that it's just part of the procedure of the students being able to get their money back. I know we have a number of out-of-state trips planned for students in the coming weeks and months. Are all of them going to require a board vote, or was this just unique to this one particular trip?
I'll have to let Dr. Reed address that. I think it was specific to this trip, but I could be wrong.
Thank you, President Swain. So Director Hayes, in this particular situation, we've had a bit of a challenge with the vendor in reimbursing folks for expenses. In most cases, the vendors have granted refunds. In this particular case, they required a board approval decision to issue refunds. So we want to make sure our families have an opportunity to get their money back, or at least as much of it as possible. We recognize all of the industries right now are struggling with the cancellations, but it does, in this case, I think it may be unique to this trip, but we may see a pattern of those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Reed. Okay, the motion, the agenda passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now move on to action items. First on the agenda is resolution number 810, emergency suspension of policy. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. Cindy, if you could pull this document up. Our insurance carrier, the Washington State Risk Management Pool, sent this out to all superintendents in all districts. And it essentially provides, or it suspends provisions of board policies and allows during this emergency situation for the superintendent to make decisions without needing to convene the board. In this case, or in the event that the board's not able to meet, it allows the business of the district to continue. So I would recommend passing this. It's, I think, being put in front of boards across the state. And while this is available to us, if we don't need to use it, hopefully we won't. We'll continue with business as usual unless it becomes necessary to use this.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, questions?
I have a question, Dr. Reed. I was just wondering, I wasn't quite sure based on the language about the duration that this would last for. Is it tied to the governor's declaration of emergency?
Yes, it would be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
So I have a question, and while I have no issues in the personal of this, constitutional law person, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. So that's a technical term for it.
That's a legal term, I know.
Yeah, that's right. So could you maybe give an example of how this might work and how we then would continue to be as transparent as possible?
Well, how this might work. I think for me, this is a really very rare resolution to ever come in front of a board, but in the event that for some reason the technology wasn't available for us to come together virtually like we are now, and therefore we really were in multiple different houses and not able to meet, like for some reason the technology gets overwhelmed and the cell systems are overwhelmed, we still have to approve warrants. We still have to approve payroll so people are paid. So it may come to pass that I would need to make a decision to approve those without us being able to get together. In that event, I would be sending you a note in whatever way possible, but we just don't know all the contingent possibilities that could occur. And with the current situation, I think anything's possible. So it prevents the normal operations of the district from being suspended because we can't meet for some reason.
So then would there be a follow-up where we were communicating with the public of how that had happened? And
Absolutely. I think it would be incumbent on us to do that, no question, both with the board and the public, that these were actions taken under the auspices of this resolution.
thank you.
I know it's a very sobering resolution, to be honest. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Who provided the second?
Ooh, I think it was.
I think I
Kurt
did.
Coden. Was it?
I was either the first or the second. I'm not sure which came in through first.
Okay,
And I was the other one, Cindy.
okay.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to performance reviews. This is our monitoring report for goal number 1, success in the early years, which we just spent a significant amount of time at our study session reviewing. But Dr. Reed, you can take it from here.
Thank you, President Swain. And I want to also go back just for a minute to the resolution. I want to hope that it's like an umbrella, right? Like looking at it, passing it means we'll never have to use it. So I think we'd all be thrilled with that. And at some point we'll have to sunset it when this is all over. So, all right. So performance review. Goal 1, this is our success in the early years goal. Zeus. I've got to keep dog treats next to my table here. I apologize.
Sorry, we can hear you pretty well.
Anyhow, I can't even believe this is happening, but okay. So this is goal 1 of 5. And I just want to, Cindy, if you want to scroll up a little bit with that, thank you. If we can go to my interpretation. I really want to thank Obadiah and Michael and David and Heather and Tracy and Doreen for their work in preparing the Goal 3 report, which really reflects the work of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our staff in our K-3 and pre-K program services, and just how hard they've been working. So I couldn't be prouder to be a part of presenting our goal 1. I think we've made huge progress in equity and access for our very youngest learners, with over 100 seats now at ECAP and Head Start. And our Ready Start programs being really, I think, innovative and new this year and yielding some really strong data. So I'm excited by the work we've done. I think we still have obviously a ways to go, particularly as we looked at the 3rd grade math. But I believe that I have reasonably interpreted the provisions of goal 1 and that we are making reasonable progress. I hope you'll agree.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Questions? Wonderings? Nothing. Well, I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Reed and staff, for diving into this over the last couple of years. It's been great to see not just tweaks, but major structural changes in how we look at our kids and doing testing, universal testing, and it's quite an amazing accomplishment. We've made significant improvements, and we have always work to do, but it's been a great start. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Reed, I'd like to add a comment too. We talked about it in the study session quite a bit, but as this year unfolds unexpectedly and summer school is going to come this summer, I wonder if there might be any financial aspects to maybe doing some different things with summer school to reflect on the fact that some students are not going to get as much time in the classroom this spring.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. I think it's going to be more important than it ever has been.
Thank you.
And if I may, Dr. Reed, too, to echo what President Swain said, I really do appreciate all the structural changes that have happened, the growth of ECAP, and the fact that there have been strides to try to use Ready Start as a way of filling the gap to try to offer it to as many kids as we can, thanks to our levy funds and the support of our community. Not only that, the new tools like the gold assessment that the team adopted in order to try to really understand how we're doing serving our youngest kiddos, as well as the use of iReady as a new tool to identify the fact that using Smarter Balance as a measuring stick isn't always the most helpful during the year. So I obviously that there are some gaps, which we talked about in the study session, but hearing all the strategies that the team is thinking on to try to move progress on those as well was really a great conversation. And I appreciate all the creative thinking and all the work everyone is putting together in this too. I really think we're gonna see some long-term benefits from all this investment we're putting into our young kiddos.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. There's been a lot of great work, and thank you to all the staff. I will, however, echo Director Kogan's concerns that this gap of this period of time is such a huge gap in their education, especially at 3 or 4 years old, that I hope we prioritize making sure that they have opportunities to get caught up.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
I
good.
agree.
Go ahead, Director McGordy.
Oh, you can't hear me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to echo what everyone else has been saying and to say thank you again to Dr. Reed and Obadiah and Doreen for all the work that's been done. And it was really a great presentation that was put together. And as I think Director Hayes mentioned, there's a lot of questions still, some work still needing to be done, but the team has very clearly thought it through very well and are making progress toward answering those questions. So thank you.
Yeah, I think the comments on summer school are well said. It would probably do a service to really look at our budget and kind of see how robust of a summer school offering we can have, K through 12, and see what our budget can handle and what we can offer and what teachers might want to participate and all that. We can bring that up at another time. It would be good to start working on that. All right, I think that is, unless there's anything else, we can move on to our vote on compliance. I need to pull up, Cindy had sent out a Word document that we usually have in front of us. Our options for voting is one, based on information provided, the board finds the superintendent has reasonably interpreted the provisions and is in compliance. Two, based on the information provided, the superintendent has failed to provide evidence of reasonable progress. And three, information provided by the superintendent is insufficient for the board to decide whether reasonable progress has been made. So do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to find the superintendent has reasonably interpreted the provisions of the goal and is making reasonable progress.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if none, we'll call for the vote. Gotta find board docs here. There we go. Too many screens open. It's hard to find everything. And back to Zoom. All right, motion passes. 5 affirmatives, no objections. Motion's approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on to policy reviews. Of course, we take a moment to look at the actual policy that we just discussed and voted upon. And does anyone have any input for now or thoughts for future meetings on this particular goal? Okay.
I think just echoing what I think for all of the goals, we'll want to be thinking as a board and administration of how we want to monitor those in the coming year, where the data points are still going to be applicable and where we're going to need to think of different ones.
Yes. Thank you, Director Hayes. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you. We'll move on then to discussion items. Dr. Reed, safety and security.
Well, I have to say that currently most of the safety and security topics have been staff collecting emergency supply equipment from our EPREP sheds. We had a significant number of masks actually and personal protective equipment, which we are donating a significant portion of that to our first responders and healthcare workers. We are keeping track of those, obviously, at some point to be reimbursed, hopefully, but we actually had, I believe the number this morning was 60,000 masks.
What?
But they're not all,
Wow.
but they're not all the stuff. They're not all the N95. Some of them are dust masks,
Right.
others.
Right.
But there are a significant number of gloves and masks and So we really want to, I mean, it is an emergency. So
Right.
utilizing emergency supplies, we pulled out a significant number of supplies for our childcare and food service and transportation staff who are working with our food delivery and childcare support to
Great.
make sure they have personal protective devices or equipment. And but our security department was very instrumental in supporting that work. And we're coordinating with Evergreen Health actually on the distribution of those items. So that's been significant work. Also, just making sure our playgrounds are secured has been a full-on role recently. Having said that, we also know that people hopefully will respect that restriction and the governor's comments this evening. So that's my report. Thanks, President Swain.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any
Well
other thoughts
done.
or questions? Good. All right, thank you, Dr. Reed. Director Morty, did you have a question?
I was just saying, well done.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, before we move on to board reports, communications, I just want to remind everyone, Cindy did send out that Word doc for the performance review. Go ahead and just fill that out on your own time and then get that back to Cindy when you can. Just email it back. Thank you. Board reports and communications. Let's see, I don't even have a particular order here. I guess I'll have to go back to board docs. Do we have any new I guess we do have any new business. That wasn't on the.
I have one thing, and really more for Dr. Reed, but certainly the board as a whole. I have been in contact with some members of the state board, and they were tasked right at the end of the legislative session to create flexibility for seniors that were on track to graduate. And that term on track is something they're wrestling with, and so are asking for suggestions or guidance as to where students they may not be thinking about would land, that they've made a good faith effort, but maybe wouldn't fit in a traditional definition of a student that had 21 credits at the end of their first semester and were passing everything, you know, as of March 1st. So just some help if there's anyone you can think of that might not meet those traditional definitions of being on track that they need to be thinking about to make sure that they still get their diploma.
All right, thank you, Director Hayes. I'll take a look at that. And I know there are a lot of conversations around graduation for a variety of reasons. I will mention that last Friday, I did have a phone call with University of Washington President Kause and Anna Mari, and I talked about sort of what the universities are doing with applications, and also they track senior progress and admissions. So I'll have joint talking points here very shortly before Wednesday at 2 o'clock. But I know we send a lot of our students to the University of Washington, and just wanting to make sure that we're in alignment with what we think graduation means, what students think it means, what the universities think it means, which is another piece to the senior question. Hearing your request, I think, makes a lot of sense too, because some of our students are enrolled in online classes to make up credit or have other pathways. So I think it'll be really important to make sure the state board understands all those pathways. So I'll get on that.
Great.
And Dr. Reed, another thought too for these seniors, you know, with their second semester, a lot of universities are asking for final transcripts at the end of your last semester. And if these transcripts go out to other states, perhaps they don't have the same, you know, experience that we have here in Washington State. So just curious to make sure that something that comes out of our district is understandable outside of our state. However, we decide to determine what graduation ready means this year.
Thank you, Director Kogan. I think that's wise.
Yeah, that's a great point. Anyone else?
Well, I have one more sort of in that whole vein with the IB, and I know the answers aren't there, but it's a question to be asked. With the IB testing being canceled, do those students then lose that opportunity to receive college credit is that no longer then an option for them? And if that is the case, will they be getting their money back?
Ironically, that is one of the questions kids have asked. Actually, both AP and IB and college and the high school, right? All of those questions kids are and parents want to know.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad that's being asked, and
Yeah.
that way we'll work with our universities to get those answers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hayes. And we'll move on to board member reports. Start out with Director Hayes. If you have anything.
Well, clearly I've done nothing. I've been well behaved.
Excellent.
Something new.
That is right. I'm practicing a new behavior here.
Behavior. Director McGurty, you told me. It's McGurty.
I have too many things. I'm afraid I have things. Sorry.
Okay. Director Cast.
You know, the only thing I have to report is that I've been trying to send updates to our legislators just on what's going on. So I sent quick updates on March 10th and 13th and 17th, and I'll be getting one out here in the next day or two as well.
Excellent. Director Kogan.
Thank you, President Swain. My report is I've been practicing social distancing and washing my hands.
Well done, Director Kogan.
This is true. Very good.
Excellent. Yeah, I same here. I did get to respond to an email. I think maybe y'all got it from Senator Frocht, just following up and asking us how we're all doing and what he can do to help. So it's good to know that our legislators are, as always, they're always supportive and very interested in how we're doing and how they can help us out. So we thank all of them. If there are any other parting thoughts, I'll go to closure. But since this is our first Hollywood Squares online board meeting, everybody good? I think this has worked out pretty smoothly.
It's worked really well.
Yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
to Alex, our guardian angel, and Cindy.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Alex, rest of IT,
Yes.
Dr. Reed, Cindy, everyone. This is great. And I look forward to doing this again. Hopefully we don't have to do it too many times in the future. But
Yeah.
I'd also like to part by saying the board and Dr. Reed and staff want to express our concerns and our thoughts and our prayers to everyone out there that is trying to protect their families. And if you have families that are at risk or ill, we wish you the best. So everyone stay inside and be sure to email us with your thoughts and concerns. So with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.